A 10-year-old boy in Florida has become one of the youngest victims of the national opioid epidemic. Investigators say Alton Banks died last month after he came in contact with the powerful painkiller fentanyl.
America is facing an epidemic of addiction to opioids like heroin and prescription painkillers.
So how many, if we start from this side, have moved from prescription drugs to heroin? Everybody.
And heroin's so much more cheaper.
But it actually, with everyone, started with a prescription from a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
What is not going to happen, we have learned, after months of publicly promising that he will declare the opioid crisis in this country a national emergency, the president will not do that today, as expected. He will call it a public health emergency.
The best way to prevent drug addiction and overdose is to prevent people from abusing drugs in the first place. If they don't start, they won't have a problem. If they do start, it's awfully tough to get off. So we can keep them from going on, and maybe by talking to youth and telling them no good, really bad for you in every way. But if they don't start, it will never be a problem.
Say yes to your life. And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
The opioid crisis has become one of the most pressing national catastrophes in recent history. So, how did we get here, and where do we go? Heroin and fentanyl are the most used opiates in rural America, but it rarely ever starts out with hard drugs. Most addicts have found their way to illegal substances through a prescription for a legal painkiller such as hydrocodone or oxycodone. A study published in the Journal of Medicine Medical Care in 2014 found that 73% of patients who asked their doctor for opiate painkillers received them no questions asked, even when it was not the right treatment for them. But for people seeking painkillers, it gets easier. Enter pill mills. Pill mills are shady practices run under the guise of genuine establishments, often labeled pain clinic or pain center. But when you peel back the disguise, pill mills are essentially cash for prescription operations, pumping out obscene amounts of pain pills to addicts every day. How do these pill mills get their supply if the practices are public knowledge? Straight from the supplier. Pharmaceutical companies are consciously pumping painkillers into rural towns, knowing full well what they are being used for. Companies like Purdue, Abbott Laboratories, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Novartis, and Covidien. The federal government has policies against these practices, but they are being deliberately ignored due to large campaign donations from these companies. The small town of Kermit, West Virginia, known as the center of the opioid crisis, received 9 million pills from pharmaceutical companies over a 2-year period, whilst having a population of just 392 people. Things seem grim, but there are steps that we can take to produce real results. Another Just Say No style ad campaign will not change a thing, and this is a frequently called upon solution for politicians who don't want to take steps considered too bold. So, where do we go from here? First off, it's time that we stop treating nonviolent drug offenders the same way we would a murderer or a rapist. The psychiatric community officially recognizes opioid addiction as a mental health disorder. Jail time will not cure addiction, just as it will not cure other disorders such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. We should not be locking up addicts. We should be rehabilitating them. We can also move to popularize what are known as drug courts. Drug courts are judicially approved court systems that put offenders into rehabilitation before prison, which leads to decreased sentences or even dropped charges. Numerous studies have proven this to be vastly more effective than prison alone, and it has been regarded as the single most successful intervention program in United States history. But they just aren't as numerous as criminal courts. 70% of drug offenders released from prison return to drugs, which is a strong testament to the prison system's inferiority. But even with improved rehabilitation, too many people are dying. 40 people a day die alone from opioid use in America, but it doesn't have to be this way. The life-saving miracle drug naloxone, more commonly referred to as Narcan, is becoming more popular every year, and it has already saved countless lives from the brink of death by reversing the effects of any opioid-based substance. Watch now as emergency services rescue a man dying on his front lawn after a heroin overdose.
We race to park in Franklin. The male is not responding. His wife fears the worst.
Is he gonna be okay?
Police question her.
How'd he get there?
His boss just drove up and threw him out of the truck.
His boss did?
The Narcan given to the man by police wasn't enough. Toledo fire crews take over, quickly working to save his life.
You step back a little bit.
They finally get him to breathe.
He's gonna have to go to the hospital. You can be with him there, all right?
The opioid crisis will be a defining struggle for our generation, but we must act soon. We gain nothing from letting it take its course, destroying families, leaving parents without daughters, sisters without brothers. I urge you to do something. Call or write your congressman. Organize a rally to spread awareness, or even simply read more into the topic. It will leave you with a hole in your heart that can only be filled when you know that you have made a difference.